In this video, we'll look at business performance management, or more specifically, we'll look at monitoring business performance management. A comprehensive framework for monitoring performance should address two key issues. So there are two key issues when looking at monitoring, and this is where we start our work. First of all, we need to know what to monitor, and then secondly, we need to know how to monitor. We need to know what to look at. It may sound a simple question, but if within an organization there are many activities running, there may be many processes, many routines running simultaneously, and it's important to work out which one deserves attention, which one requires attention most at this moment. And having selected that one, then it's necessary to work out how to monitor it. How should it be measured? How should it be dealt with? Now, these are big questions. They're actually quite big questions, even though they look very small and very straightforward. But within organizations, it's difficult to know what to monitor next, what is important, and it's difficult to work out how to monitor it. So we need to focus in on these questions. In monitoring, we start with the business strategy. What is the business attempting to do? What's its strategy? How is it going about achieving its mission, achieving its goals? What's its strategy? Is its strategy to beat the competitors, mass produce the product? Is it its strategy to have a just-in-time production system, a lean production system? Is its strategy to cut costs or innovate the product? Or what is its strategy? So it's necessary for a start to work that out. Then it's to determine the critical performance variable. What is it within the organization that's critical? What is it that is extremely important? What is it that must be done? What is it that the organization must achieve? Identify it. Is it to produce a certain product that meets customers' requirements, to produce it on time, to sell it at the right price, to get it to market timely, to innovate the product? What is it the company is trying to do? What is the critical performance variable? Identify it. Look at the goals of the organization. What's the goal of the organization? Is it to survive, make a profit, grow, expand, merge with other companies, set up new businesses, globalize? What is it? What's the company's goals? And what's the goals in the context of the particular product that's been identified in the critical performance variable? The particular product and the particular process. What's the goals in terms of that? So our concept of goals should run from the macro, looking at the organization, down to the micro. What's the goal in terms of this particular process? The goal is to produce the product efficiently. The goal is to produce it at minimum cost. The goal is to have high quality. The goal is to satisfy customer requirements. So we can see this idea, this concept of goals, what we're aiming at, to run at different levels within the organization. Then we have the inputs. What are the inputs? What are the quality of the inputs? How many inputs are required? Inputs could be, in terms of economics, labor, capital, land, and entrepreneurship. 4 factors of production. In terms of business studies, we could itemize those as machines, raw materials, services of the stores, the HR department, the marketing department, the research and development department. These are all inputs into the production process. These are the ones that will finally get the product to the customer, a product that will satisfy the customer's requirements. What are the processes that the inputs will be subjected to? How will the inputs be processed? How will they be modified? How will they be altered in terms of production or through some sort of manipulation into the final product that will be sold to the customer? So the inputs are transferred from inputs into outputs. There are processes in place that will do this. And that's how we get the outputs. We get the outputs by processing the inputs, by altering the inputs to get the outputs. And then, of course, we evaluate the whole thing. Having got the outputs, we need to evaluate. Now, outputs, by the way, can also be measured on different levels. The output could be the physical product at the end of the line, which is good quality and it's physical and it's produced. It could be a service that's good quality and is ready for delivery. It could be some service the company is capable of delivering. That's the output. Or it could be the output of each individual part of the process. That the output from the machining section is good quality and on time. But then the business may fall behind in the next section, which is perhaps distribution or dispatch, which may be inefficient, in which case that will need monitoring. So we can also look at outputs at different levels within the organization. So it's a whole monitoring process that needs to be put in place to ensure that the whole business is running efficiently. Now, the pitfalls of variance analysis. Variance analysis is when we set up standards, perhaps in budgets, we set up a standard. We say the company must produce the following items in the next month. And then we look at the variance analysis, how many were actually produced. Was it under budget? Was it what was budgeted? Was it over budget? Did the company produce more than was required or less than was required? Was the costs higher or lower? So we have a variance, a difference between what was expected and what was delivered. The vast majority of the exception analysis focuses on negative variances, when functional groups or departments fail to meet their targets. That's the way we tend to think. We get very worried when we have a negative variance. We expected the budget to be so much and the budget was more. We spent more than we expected. That's a negative variance, and that's a big issue. That calls into play monitoring and close scrutiny to see what happened, why was it over budget. So we tend to pay attention, a lot of attention, to negative variances. However, positive variances need to be reviewed for potential opportunities, and any analysis should focus on assumptions underlying the variance patterns. Now, a positive variance is when a budget was allocated, let's say, to achieve a certain output, and the budget was underspent. The managers and the workers and the line managers and so on were so efficient that they underspent on the budget. Now, maybe the assumptions of the budget were wrong. Maybe the people who set up the budget in the first place had miscalculated. They had set the wrong budgets. It could be the case. But it could also be the case that the workers and the line managers and the departmental heads and so on were creative. They were innovative themselves. They found ways of cutting costs, which is to their credit, and we can learn from that. So a positive variance could be a learning opportunity for the organization. Or it could be simply that the budgets were wrong in the first place. We need to assess performance. Now, the Hackett Group's benchmarking process divides planning and management reporting into 4 sub-processes. First of all, strategic planning. Well, strategic planning is at the macro level. This is at the organizational level, where it's looking long-term. It's trying to position the organization within the market long-term. It involves senior management. It involves a lot of information, careful thought to see where the organization is going to be placed in the market long-term. Then we've got operational and financial planning, which is more short-term and more internal and more routine. It's dealing with the internal budgets. It's dealing with the internal performance of the business. It's looking at outputs and productivity and measures of productivity and the throughput of the raw materials from start to the finished product, the quality of the product and how the quality is monitored. It's looking at all of the operational planning and the financial planning that goes with it, because there are budgets all the way through to ensure that the production takes place and is appropriately monitored. We've also got reporting. It's important that information collected, albeit at the strategic level or the operational level, it needs to be reported back. The information is valuable. It's valuable in designing the next round of planning. The next round of planning will be partially based, if not wholly based, on the experiences from the previous round. So it not just involves market research and the input from research departments and from the marketing department, but it also involves information coming back from production and from HR and from all the departments in the business who are reporting back on performance. And we've got forecasting. In a sense, there's no point in planning unless we can forecast. But forecast is looking into the future, and that is notoriously difficult. Some people would say it's bordering on witchcraft. Trying to look into the future is trying to estimate what the demand will be and what the customers' reactions will be to products and product changes and customers' tastes in the future. So that is difficult. So the assumptions underpinning that must also be carefully worked out. Now, each sub-process is evaluated in terms of 5 dimensions of efficiency and effectiveness. So all of the processes, the strategic planning, the operational, financial planning, reporting, forecasting, we can, in a sense, we can delve more into these by looking at the efficiency and effectiveness and looking at the dimensions of efficiency and effectiveness. For example, in looking at strategic alignment, perhaps the business is aiming at a particular market, but that market is getting smaller because of demographic change or because of intense competition or whatever. So perhaps strategic alignment means pointing the business in a slightly different direction, still using the capital and the expertise of the workers and the machinery and so on, but just modifying the product to aim at a different segment of the market, perhaps realigning the business, realigning its position in the market. It may involve partnering, trying to do deals with other companies, perhaps competitors, or companies who are not necessarily competitors, but who have contacts with the particular segments of the market that the company is interested in. They have contacts, they have distribution channels, or they have some sort of connection with that aspect of the market. Or indeed, maybe they just have distribution outlets, or they have common technologies so they could share production. But partnering has to result in some benefit for the business. Otherwise, it won't happen. We've also got the process. Well, we can look at this in all sorts of ways. We can look at the overall process of the business, or we could look at it again in terms of the more micro, looking at individual processes within the business. But in whichever direction we look, the macro level, the, if you like, the strategic level, the process of the business, the process of dealing with the market and getting sales and so on, that needs to be monitored. But we also have the processes internally that need to be monitored. There has to be a good sequence of production. The various parts of the production process should be linked. It should be sequential. It should be designed and well set out, and the departments should communicate effectively, and the processes should be set up to do that. And of course also technology. Technology is constantly evolving, as we know, and it's vital that companies are aware of the technology for a start, aware of advances in technology, and looking for opportunities to apply the technology, to apply it so that it's cost saving, it's labor saving perhaps, or it simply takes the burden out of the work and makes the work more efficient, and enables the workers to produce a good quality product without undue exertion or undue boredom. So the technology needs to be monitored. It's not just the technology that's around today, but it's important that the company are looking forward to new technologies and be aware of companies that are developing technologies that may be deployed by them in cost-saving exercises. And of course people are essential. Without people nothing happens. There is no business. So assessing the performance of people and looking at the skills, aptitudes, the core competencies of the business, and all of the issues that go with having people engaged in the processes of production, of marketing, of management and so on, having training schemes that develop the skills and keep them contemporary, keep them up to date, having good communications with the various parts of the business and the people in the various parts of the business, and also recognizing the human side of the business, because people are not machines and they may have requirements for different motivations. They may not be going to work entirely for the salary. The salary is very important to them and their families, but they may also want to have some sort of satisfaction. They are spending their life working in the business, producing certain products, and they want to be valued and they want to be communicated with. So there are performance issues associated with having people as well. Now, the Hackett Group's benchmarking results indicated that world-class companies, now this is world-class companies, these are the really big important companies. In today's world it would be Google, Microsoft, Amazon, mostly internet type companies spring to mind, but also in terms of production, some of the car companies and petrochemicals and chemicals and ethical pharmaceuticals. Many different businesses have world-class reputations. So the benchmarking would say these companies are significantly more efficient than their peers at managing costs. So managing costs seems to be an issue that jumps off the page. This is vital. In assessing and monitoring performance, managing costs seems to be primal. That is essential. And to do that, of course, management must have the information and they must have the ability to intervene and manage costs in such a way as to not impair production or alter production in any significant way or change the quality of the product, but just simply add efficiency, and maybe through the introduction of technology or perhaps more training scheme for the workers, so the workers themselves become more efficient and that way reduce cost. There are various ways in which it can be done, but certainly managing costs seems to be a big finding of the group in looking at world-class companies. Also, focus on operational excellence and experience significantly reduces rates of voluntary employee turnover. So emphasize the need for excellence, the need for good quality work, the need for precision, the need for routines that give the operators pride in their work. And if the operators have pride in their work because they're producing good quality, very precise output, then they will be more motivated and there will be less employee turnover. People will not leave. They won't see it as a dead-end job that nobody cares. They will see it as a job in which their contribution is valued because they are producing a good quality product. And have hybrid sourcing strategies that combine shared services and outsourcing. So look to balancing the organization. It also is a good way of hedging against risks. So if one part of the organization experiences a problem, there are perhaps outsourced facilities that the company can use. If not continuously, perhaps just as a stopgap until they get their own back online and working. But look at hybrid sourcing strategies where perhaps they are making part of the product, they're outsourcing part of the process, they're buying in from other people and assembling finished or semi-finished components. So it's a hybrid strategy. Again, perhaps it may add to costs, it may not, but it may diversify risk and it could reduce some of the complexity within the organization itself. The world-class companies provide management with tools and training to leverage corporate information and to guide strategic planning, budgeting and forecasting. It's important that the management can get their hands on, can leverage corporate information. The management must be able to do that. If they can't, they're working in the dark. And this information must be used to guide strategic planning, budgeting and forecasting. Planning, budgeting and forecasting can't be based on nothing. It can't just be made up. So ideally it should be based on good quality corporate information that the management can get and make good, hopefully rational decisions, and their assumptions can be made explicit so all can see, and it's an open exercise which should yield results. So they are sharing the information amongst themselves, they're thinking about the planning process, the budgeting process, the forecasting process, and they are reflecting on it. They have meetings, they consult relevant departmental heads and relevant operatives on the shop floor or wherever, and they're able to make informed decisions. Closely align strategic and tactical plans, enabling functional areas to contribute more effectively to the overall business goals. Well, it must be the case, although some companies may drift from this, but the strategic plans, which are long run, are really made up from lots of short run plans, the tactical plans, the day-to-day operational plans even. So there must be some connection between the strategic plans and the operational plans. Otherwise, what they're doing in the short run may be contradicting what they want to do in the long run, and that does not make a lot of sense. So in devising the strategic plan, they must look at their resources, their expertise, the products they make, the sector of the market they're operating in, and that must influence their strategic thinking. Paucity of analysis, the poor quality of analysis. Well, overall impact of the planning and reporting practices of the average company is that the management has little time to review results from a strategic perspective, decide what should be done differently, and act on the revised plans. Average companies don't have a lot of time for planning, particularly smaller companies, small to medium-sized enterprises. They are almost firefighting on a daily basis. They're trying to cope with issues as they come up on a daily basis. So they have problems in trying to deal day to day. Taking the luxury of time off to strategically plan may be an issue. So sometimes decisions may be made in terms of the direction of the business on very little information or analysis. So that can be detrimental to the long run position of the business, and that needs to be addressed if possible. Now, the performance measurement system, well, a system that assists managers in tracking the implementations of business strategy by comparing actual results against strategic goals and objectives. So it's the performance measurement system. There's got to be some sort of measurement, some sort of indicators, be it ratios or engineering data or information from financial budgets or whatever it is, that enables the management to measure the effectiveness of the business against what they want to achieve. And what they want to achieve is presumably what's written into their strategic plans. Now, any deviation, if the business is not achieving, then that should prompt investigation, analysis, further monitoring, feedback. There should be some sort of investigative process to see what's happening and why the business is falling short. It may be what's been asked of the business is too much, that the senior management were not realistic in setting the operational goals. But whatever, they need to investigate that, and they need to do it as objectively as possible. Drawbacks of solely using financial data. Well, financial measures are usually reported by organizational structures and not by the processes that produce them. So it's difficult to monitor processes if we don't have the financial information. As I said, management accountants may be involved, but management accountants are expensive to employ. But management accountants can, generally speaking, give a good estimate of how much items are as they go through the production stages and through the organization. So they're able to calculate costs quite well. But as I said, they're expensive. So, and that process is expensive. So normally what we do is we get the results of the organization in total. We get the balance sheet returns and profit and loss returns and so on. And some decision is made based on those. Whereas maybe what we should be looking at are individual production lines or particular departments, the budgets for particular departments, or so perhaps there are other ways of measuring performance than just looking at financial data as well. It could be looking at the output of the departments, the effectiveness of the departments in terms of market share or market penetration or whatever. Financial measures are lagging indicators. They tell us what's happened. They don't tell us why it happened or what's likely to happen in the future. So financial measures are in the past. The balance sheet was drawn up on a particular day in the past. So decisions are made based on information in the past. They're lagging indicators. And that is another drawback of using financial data for decision-making processes and for planning. Financial measures are often the product of allocations that are not related to the underlying process that generated them. Sometimes financial measures can be put forward in terms of departments. The department may hold a budget, but the department may be responsible for 5 or 6 different processes. So which process is causing the problem? Well, that falls to the departmental director to identify, but he or she may have a problem in identifying it. Not least of which is the fact that they are heavily involved in their own department, and sometimes we can't see the wood for the trees. Sometimes we can't see what's happening in front of us because we're too involved. So financial measures, looking at budgets for example, may also be not that efficient. It's a drawback. And also financial measures are focused on the short term and provide little information about long term. Financial information is for an accounting period, perhaps, for the last year. So it's not only out of date, but it's for a particular time period. Or it could be that the budgets are allocated every year to a department, or every 6 months to a department, or whatever, so that they're not looking at the long-term performance of the department. Effective performance measurement. Well, the basic ingredients include measures should focus on the critical success factors. Now, a critical success factor is just an element that is necessary for an organization or project to achieve its outcome or its mission. The critical success factor is the one that must be achieved. The output that's critical. It must be achieved by the organization. So it's important to identify its critical success factors and achieve these success factors. Measures should be a mix of past, present, and the future. So it's important that performance measures should look into past performances, financial performances, production performances, productivity, whatever it is, market penetration, market share. Look at past performance. Try to get an idea of the present performance, how well it's doing now. It may be quite complicated to do, but try and get some sort of feel for how the company's doing at the present, and try to make some sort of realistic estimates of how it's going to do in the future. Based on assumptions, of course, how the future is going to be. It's always tricky to try and work out forecasts because the future hasn't arrived. Measures should balance the need for all stakeholders. So there are all sorts of stakeholders involved in the business, employees, partners, directors, managers, suppliers, customers, distributors. There are all sorts of stakeholders, and when planning the business, the needs and requirements of all the stakeholders should be considered. They may not be met in full, there might be conflicts between them, but it's important at least that the management are aware that these stakeholders exist, they're important, and to some extent their concerns and their requirements are addressed. Measures ideally should start at the top and should flow down. It's good for workers on the line to know that the top management are working to try and promote the business, to secure the workers' futures and their jobs, and give them a salary or give them a wage, and maintain them and their families. So it's good that the top management are seen to be effective and committed and working on the business. So measures flowing from the top down generally carry approval from the people on the shop floor. However, of course, the measures coming down should be equitable, should be balanced, reasonable, realistic, achievable, timely. There should be all that the workers on the shop floor would expect from an intelligent, committed top management. A management who is aware of the difficulties in terms of production, distribution, marketing and so on, and who's on the same side as the workers and the various departmental staff. Targets must be based on facts and reality. As far as possible, targets should be based on facts and reality. It would be silly to just start inventing figures as if they are real and then base decisions on them. Not only silly, it's downright dangerous. So basing it on facts and reality is more important, albeit facts tend to be out of date. But nonetheless, they are a good indicator of what's likely to happen. Certainly, they're far better than simply guessing. So targets should be based on facts and reality as far as possible. These are some ideas about effective performance measurement, business performance monitoring in particular. And that's all I'm going to say on this topic at this moment. So let's leave it at that. Please go back over the video, run it again, stop it, start it, make your own notes, pad out your own notes, and make sure you understand the importance of performance measurement. So we'll leave it at that for the moment and say thank you for watching.